Howdy folks, how's it going today? I hope everyone's doing really good. Well, I'm playing guitar, that's a good thing. I was actually able to do some jamming today with a couple of my friends. Bass player and drummer. We try to jam every week or every other week when we can kind of make it work, you know. And usually we work on our own stuff, our own music and whatnot, but we always take a little sidetrack and play a good cover tune. I just noodle around with something, you know. And today we were messing around with a SuperTramp tune called Take the Long Way Home. So I thought I'd go through it with you guys real quick. It's not that tough, but it's a cool little tune. Now the way I was just playing it was how that kind of came out in the jam room today. And it almost had like a reggae feel to it. And it was really cool. It felt good to play it. So you don't have to play it that way, but excuse me, I want to at least go through the chords with you, okay? So first chord is going to be C minor 7. I'm not playing the treble string. I'm omitting that note, but so A string, everything under it in the 3rd fret. B string in the 4th, and the D's in the 5th. Guessing you guys probably already know that chord, but I don't want to leave anybody out, right? So, first chord, second chord is this. And if you got a high nut slot, you're going to hear it go out of tune a little like mine. So what we got here is the D, G, and B in the 3rd fret. And the E strings in the 1st fret. Okay? So we have when it's out of tune, I'll kind of shake the notes so it doesn't sound so bad. There's another little trick. So next chord is F and then C. Okay, so let's go through that. I'm using my pick and my 3 fingers to get that attack. You know what I mean? Like a piano hit. Is a double stop, 5th fret on the D and G, and I'm walking that down to the 3rd fret. I think I'm doing a pull off maybe. Kinda, yeah. And I'm just toggling on those same strings in the 3rd fret. Then we come up to a C major power chord, okay? So pretty much like that. Okay, so here's the chorus. It's going to go to E minor, A minor. So what we did, the next chord here is I'm just taking my ring finger off the G string from this A minor chord, and then I'm adding it to the E string in the 3rd fret, which is a G note. So I guess what you're left with is like A minor 7 over G. I'm no chord chemist, so bear with me. So let's recap that much of it. So it's E minor, A minor, minor, F, B flat major, A minor, G, E minor, A minor, that A minor 7 over G, F, B flat major, A minor, G. And then we'll go back into the chorus section. So I'll play through that. I meant the verses, not the chorus. So I'm going to play through that one more time, really slow, and I'll try to name those chords out again. So we have E minor, A minor, F, B flat major, A minor, G, E minor, A minor, F, B flat major, A minor, G. Okay, that's basically the nuts and bolts of it right there. Or at least what I come up with on the fly in my head in the jam, but it worked, and it did sound really cool with that reggae. The drummer played just a nice, simple, reggae lope to it, and man, we locked in on that instantly. He's never played reggae in his life until recently when we started jamming, and I've never played in a reggae band, but I like to dabble in all kinds of different feels and genres of music, and we've kind of done this to a few tunes, even our own, and he's totally digging it. He loves that feel and just that there's so much space, you know what I mean? And there's something about that, like less is more a lot of times, I guess is what I'm getting at. But so there is another thing you could do with this. Now, you could play the melody along with this maybe too, if I could possibly figure this out. So let's see. So you could do that. I mean, if you got a singer, he's going to be singing that. So you may not want to be playing in that upper register. You might want to be playing in the lower section of the chord. Now that's something to be conscious of too. I do that a lot. If you're playing with a vocalist, if you're playing a cover tune, you got to do what you got to do. But if you're creating your own music, if he's singing in a high register, you can be playing in that lower register, and then the bass player is going to have his little space in the mix too, If everybody's playing really low frequency notes, that doesn't always work. It needs to kind of be spread out. So if you take a basic chord like that, now there's 3 different registers really. You get this low and the high notes too. So, I usually think of that in like groups of 3, like those 3 strings, those 3 strings, and so on. So I'll try to concentrate a lot of times on just 3 notes. And even playing chords, if I can get away with it, I'll try to do 3-note chords, implied chords, or whatever they call them. Just for the simplicity, again, so it leaves that amount of space for the other musicians. And when I was younger, that really wasn't in the thought process here as far as my playing. But I was playing mostly just cover songs, and you just gotta mimic the stuff and memorize it. So that was really the goal at the end of the day. It wasn't trying to think about where I'm gonna fit in this mix or in this song. That all came later on as I, started doing a lot more recording and that kind of thing, and I really started to pay attention to that stuff. If you guys have done any recording, let's say you played that chord. Let's say you wanted to double that. So you got that on a track and you want to double it and use the same guitar. A lot of times it's going to be a frequency cancellation instantly. So I will use different guitars and different amplifiers sometimes. You can use the same guitar and maybe just tweak the EQ on it a little bit, but if you have all those notes at once on the recording and you lay another track on it and try to like double that, it might sound fuller, but you'll notice as you start mixing stuff, you'll be pushing everything else to try to find its space in there. And that's another thing I learned, like, if you listen to a lot of older recordings, even good rock and roll stuff like the Stones, and there's not a lot of tracks there. It's just straightforward. Everybody's playing their part, and that's it. There's a few overdubs, but, it's pretty straight up. And AC/DC, there's another great example. That's why you can crank those records and they sound killer when you play them loud, because of all that space. You know what I mean? Of course, the mix and all that comes into it, but that was stuff I started to take notice of, over the years. Why does that sound so good when I crank that in my car or through my house stereo or whatever? I'm sure you guys have noticed the same thing. Like, some records just sound so great, and then when you crank them up, they really sound great, Not all records are like that, but I noticed after a while that it's mostly the simple records with not a lot of stuff on them and not a lot of overdubs. Those are the ones that sound the best to me, honestly. That's opinion. That's everybody's own opinion, and it's your taste and what you like. But SuperTramp's kind of like that. It's really not. It was a pretty good sized band, but nobody overplayed. Everything's just in line and where it needs to be, and good feel, good tempo. Amazing band. One of my favorite all-time bands of the 70s and into the 80s even, but SuperTramp just seemed to stand out. Kind of like Steely Dan did, You either like them or you don't, but I found that really most people like SuperTramp. Even rockers and metal guys will admit it, It's just something about that music. It's got just such a good hook to it, and it feels good to listen to. And it feels good to play, too, as well. So that's the stuff I pay attention to. Man, we went down a wormhole there, didn't we? That's what happens when I don't do guitar videos and whatnot. I forget how to do it and start talking a lot, obviously. Well, anyway, I'm going to try to keep some of this stuff going. I've got the shop looking pretty good here. I've been moving stuff around, getting everything lined up, so it should be pretty easy for me to operate, and build guitars and whatnot from time to time. So I'm looking forward to it. I really did enjoy the build that I did for my father on his birthday. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff, mostly about tooling and what I need really to make the job easier for me. I'm trying to keep everything as hands-on as I can as far as building. I'd rather, I don't want to let the robot have all the fun of the machine. I like getting my hands dirty and trying to do as much as I can by hand. It's just fun, and it's kind of like therapeutic for me, honestly. So we'll have more videos coming up. I am going to document all the guitars that I build. Right now I've got 4 of them that are kind of backed up on me, so I got to get this stuff going. And that's why we've had a pause in the videos lately. But all right, enough talking, man. I'm out of wind from talking here. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that little lesson, and hopefully I played it right. I know it was sloppy, but that's my bad. Play your guitars, keep practicing every day, because you don't want to end up like this and playing terrible. So anyway, we'll see you guys real soon. Be good. Okie doke.